While it's been a long and sometimes complicated expedition, building a Tesla-inspired Powerwall for my Reef has been a fun and hopefully educational journey so far. If you are just joining me or need a refresher, let's recap. In the first episode, I discussed where I source my battery packs from and how I tear them down into individual 18650 batteries. The second episode, I explained how I process and charge the batteries and create a bus bar. The third episode, I finished the bus bar, gathered fuse wire, and tested each individual battery in the pack before final soldering. In this episode, building a Tesla-inspired Powerwall for my Reef, episode 4, I will be soldering the fuse wire to the batteries and the bus bar. I start off by tinning each of the positive battery terminals on the battery pack. There are 40 batteries in this pack, so this will take some time. I use Bernzomatic lead-free silver-bearing rosin core solder. This solder is usually a tad more expensive than other generic solder on the market, but I have found through trial and error this brand makes an overall better connection to me. Tinning each terminal helps speed up the final connection process later, where I will connect each battery to one another by connecting them all to the main bus bar. After each positive battery terminal has been tinned and then cooled, I flip the battery pack over and continue the same process with all of the negative terminals. For this next step, I strongly suggest wearing some type of gloves as the fuse wire and solder splatter is very hot and can burn your skin very easy. Once all the terminals have been successfully tinned, I reheat the solder and insert a fuse wire on one side by holding one end and digging the wire through the hot solder directly onto the terminal to make a solid connection. When all 20 fuse wires have been soldered down, I bend each one down and make sure the fuse wire makes a solid connection with the bus bar. Once all of the fuse wire is in place, I snip off all extra fuse wire with wire cutters. It is important to do this now rather than when everything is soldered down, which will be harder to cut. After all extra fuse wire is snipped, I then solder the remaining fuse wire connections to the positive terminals. To ensure a proper connection, I also use a small flathead to push the fuse wire onto the terminal while soldering. I then solder the contact between the fuse wire and bus bar to make sure both are touching and creating a solid contact. This is just one of 7 battery packs I have to make to create 24 volts. Each of these battery packs will have a total voltage of 4.20. 4.20 times 7 will equal 29.4. Stay tuned for my next episode, where I will finish up the battery pack by soldering XT60 connectors to connect all of the packs together.